So today, the House of Representatives voted to pass the Epstein files bill, compelling the release of the Epstein files, and the vote was overwhelming.
On this vote, the yeas are 427, the nays are 1. 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended, the bill is passed.
It passed 427 to 1. And then, just as extraordinary, it came to the Senate. Senator Schumer brought up a unanimous consent resolution to pass the bill, and it passed without objection.
We have some breaking news to tell you about from Capitol Hill. The bill to release the Epstein files has passed by unanimous consent in the United States Senate. It now heads to Donald Trump's desk. Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer made the request to pass the bill.
So to understand the whole permutations of the Epstein files and how we got to this moment, you have to go back to before Donald Trump became president again, when the president and others within MAGA world were pleading for the release of the Epstein files. We're talking in particular about a client list that Epstein allegedly had with significant society people that were the subject of trafficking young women to. And so here, for example, is Kash Patel, now the FBI director, well before he was the FBI director, telling a right-wing podcaster how the FBI director is going to release the Epstein files.
Who has Jeffrey Epstein's
Black Book?
Black Book?
FBI.
But who? That is I mean, there's.
Oh, that's under direct control of the director of the FBI. And to me, that's a thing I think President Trump should run on. On day one, roll out the Black Book.
And here's Pam Bondi, post-election, talking about how that client list is on her desk.
Maybe releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients? Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that.
So what followed all the promises during the campaign and even after the campaign to release the files and the client list was a long campaign of stonewalling the release of these documents. Apparently there were hundreds or even thousands of FBI agents that went through the trove of Epstein documents in the government's possession, flagging whenever the president's name was mentioned. And whether it was something in those documents or the frequency with which Trump appeared in the documents, the attitude of the Trump administration, people like Patel and like Bondi and like others, after election was markedly different than before election. That is, they now resisted the release of the files. In fact, here's Kash Patel saying that there was no client list. The one that he proclaimed was subject to release by the FBI director. Now he's the FBI director. Here he is saying that this doesn't even exist. Did he traffic any young woman to someone other than himself? That was Mr. Kennedy's question, Senator Kennedy's question.
The information that 3 administrations have had access to have made determinations that there are no investigative leads that were credible to prosecute and investigate any others.
In fact, you might remember that Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General, the number 2 at the Justice Department, made that bizarre visit to Ghislaine Maxwell, this co-conspirator, ostensibly to get information, but really to try to get some exonerating statement by Maxwell, which he indeed got. She denied Trump's involvement in this stuff. Well, we know from documents that would be released by the estate that her testimony was false. Certainly there were a lot of contradictions in what she said and what has already been released by the estate. But nevertheless, Maxwell has been transferred to this minimum security facility, this kind of concierge prison where a convicted sex trafficker is not eligible to be transferred. And the administration has yet to answer how that came about. It seems certainly suggestive that having gotten what they wanted from Maxwell, that is exonerating statements, they gave her a quid pro quo, which was this cushy prison setting. I asked Kash Patel about this, and he refused to answer it during our nomination hearing, claiming inexplicably that the Bureau of Prisons made this decision all on their own without any input from anyone else. That simply isn't the least bit credible. But that did not dim suspicions that the Trump administration was now engaged in a massive cover-up. And so you had a couple House members, Ro Khanna leading the effort, introduce legislation to release the Epstein files, and a Republican named Tom Massey initiate a discharge petition to force a vote on the Khanna bill. Now, a discharge petition is a procedural device where you can force a vote on something in the House of Representatives, even over the Speaker's opposition, if you can get 218 members to sign a petition, a discharge petition. So they gathered signatures, led by Massey and Khanna. They gathered signatures for this discharge petition until they had 217, just one short of the total necessary. And there was an election for a deceased member of Congress in Arizona, the daughter of Raul Grijalva, one of my former colleagues who had passed away. She was going to be the 218th signature on the petition. So what did Speaker Johnson do out of duty to the president, out of a desire to continue concealing the Epstein files? He kept the House out of session for 2 months. Rather than have the new session come into being, rather than deal with the shutdown, no, they kept House members away in significant part because they didn't want Adelita Grijalva, Raul's daughter, to be sworn into the House of Representatives. Well, she was just sworn in this week, signed the petition. The president did everything he could to get Republicans who had signed it, there were 4 of them, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert, among others, to peel off Nancy Mace and other, calling Boebert to the White House, trying to reach Mace on the phone, trying to do everything possible to get those 4 Republicans to flip-flop off the discharge petition, but did so without success. And that brought us up to just the last 24 to 48 hours, when Donald Trump did a complete about-face. So here's Trump first trying to downplay his relationship with Epstein and saying essentially he really wasn't around him that much. Here's Trump downplaying that.
I believe that some of the people that we mentioned are being looked at very seriously for their relationship to Jeffrey Epstein, but they were with him all the time. I wasn't at all.
But of course, there's lots of photographic evidence that contradicts those claims. Here are just a few of those photographs. But then he's put on the spot about voting for this Khanna-Massey release the files bill, and the president commits to signing it. Even Speaker Johnson voted for this bill. Reminds me a bit of this begrudging scene from The Death of Stalin.
All those in favor? Carried unanimously. All right, next.
So now the bill has passed House and Senate and gone off to the president, and the president has said he will sign it. Maybe by the time you see this video, he will have already signed it. Does this mean that all of the Epstein files at long last are going to come out? Or do we have to be concerned that the administration or the president's allies will somehow conceal, cover up, or delete or shred emails that may be damaging to the president? That concern is real, because let's look at what's already come out of some of the early Epstein files. That included this birthday card signed by Donald Trump, which he denied ever sending. And we've seen other emails that came out, for example, one of Epstein talking about, of course, Trump knew about the girls because he objected to Maxwell about stealing them from Mar-a-Lago. Or this email in which Epstein says that Trump spent hours at his home with one of these underage women. Epstein believes he has things in his possession that would be incriminating of Donald Trump that the public at that time did not yet know of. And here's the White House press secretary trying to deny the truth of that or try to avoid the question altogether.
Did the president ever spend hours at Jeffrey Epstein's house with a victim?
These emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong.
So we've already seen what's come out from the estate, a lot of damning emails. Certainly not proof admissible in a court of Donald Trump's complicity in any kind of child sex trafficking, but nevertheless, important information that reflects on the morality or lack of morality of the President of the United States. So who knows what else could be in these Epstein files, and not just vis-a-vis Donald Trump, but vis-a-vis a whole lot of others as well. But for all the political consequences of the release or non-release of the Epstein files, the most important aspect of here doesn't involve the politics. It involves the victims of the child sex trafficking scandal. It involves those young girls who were trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. It involves giving them some accountability, some transparency. That is the most important aspect of this effort to release the Epstein files. So thanks for watching tonight's video. We started doing these nightly videos as a way of identifying something really important that happened today or this week, what we should make of it, and how we can fight back. As you can see, I like to include movie clips. If you have any suggestions for other movie clips I should include in future videos, please share them with us. And thank you for following along.